Welcome back for another Warbond CCU analysis. This time, it's Alien Week. Let's go. So with Alien Week, we can expect, well, alien ships to have some CCUs. First off, we've got the Merchantman. Okay, this is a concept ship. This 650 will increase, but right now it is a $50 discount. Pretty good deal if you're going to the Merchantman or beyond. Not very far beyond though, because it's probably going to increase again in price. But anyway, this wouldn't be a spec or a speculative purchase here. You can go directly from, oh boy, a bunch of different concept ships. Go figure. Geez, the Liberator's $25 and both will increase in price. This probably isn't a bad choice because again, they're both concepts. They'll move together. As long as you have a chain building up to the Liberator already, this isn't so bad. And again, look, I mean, you're still spending 25 to save 50 overall, so it's not a bad deal. It's a 2-for-1 kind of purchase or ratio. So, and again, because they're both concept ships, they're both going to go up in price. I would say this one's okay to do. I'll put my stamp of approval on that one. The Arastra, same position, right? I don't know. There's no way to know how much these are going to increase in price, but you can assume $25, right? And then who knows for the Merchantman? It could be a $750 ship by the end of it. I have no idea. But again, because the price point is the same and they're both concept ships, $575 increase, well, it'll increase. So will the Merchantman. You're only spending 25 to save 50. Overall, I think that's still a good deal. Again, only because they're both concept ships. If this ship over here, if the Merchantman was not a concept ship, if it had been released, I would not recommend this purchase. Not at $25, even to save 50. I would wait on that one. But again, because they're both concept, it's okay. It's probably a decent deal here, especially if you've already built up to either the Arastra or a Liberator in your chain. Hold these a little bit further behind. You can go over that when you're spending 50 to save 50. They're both concepts. It feels like the whole D will increase in price more than some of the others around this price point because it's really an income earner in game. I have a feeling this might be like a 625 ship by the end of it. But again, both will increase in price. It's a 1-for-1 ratio. This is the worst ratio we'd accept. Spend 50 to save 50. It's okay, I suppose, but I mean, at least you'd have some other opportunities if you were going a different route. I won't recommend it unless you've already got the whole D chain built out and this is your last step. It's kind of a wash at that point. If you're really going to the Merchantman, you're not going to maximize savings much more. I mean, again, the Arastra maybe. I think it'd be really difficult to get additional savings out of any of these three ships because, again, they're all still concepts. And then the Ironclad is just further on down the chain stack. You're spending 65 to save 50. This one's probably going to increase. This might be a $600 ship by the end of it. It seems to be very favorable right now. I don't know how many people have bought them, but it seemed just like the Cutter to be a very well-loved ship upon its kind of concept release. So who knows? My guess is it could be a $600 ship by the end of it. But again, spending 65 to save 50, not the greatest, right? After that, I think you're just leaving too much on the table anyway. I'm not going to really cover any others down the stack. You're just leaving way too much on the table. I think the best bet are Liberator and Arastra, again, because both sides of this CCU are going to be concept ships. I think you're okay in utilizing a concept over here on the left. Hull D, it could make a decent example, I suppose, if you've already built to it. But it's tough to say. You may want to just leave that where it is, grab the Liberator or Arastra, and then try and build something in between them, I guess. Or maybe wait till they release and then apply the chain, or maybe get a CCU in between. Maybe it'll come up cheaper depending on how these all increase in price. But both of these are fine choices, I think, as long as you have the rest of your chain to them already, because, again, concept pricing is as low as it will get for any given ship, these will absolutely increase. So if you haven't built to the Liberator yet, I would suggest doing that as soon as possible, as soon as it is made available. Is it still available? Liberator, nope, it's not even available over here. So as soon as that thing pops up, I would suggest grabbing it as well to complete that chain if you haven't already got there. Next up, we have the Santok, also a cool ship. $20 savings, that's not bad. Let's see what we have available. The Hurricane, I know the Hurricane's built into a lot of chains. Connie Taurus, Vulcan, Super Hornet Heartseeker, A1 Spirit, etc. Okay, we got some decent choices here. So let's start off with the Hurricane. You're spending 10 to save 20. Excellent ratio, right? It's 2-to-1 savings. The Hurricane's had quite a few. I know it's had a price increase, so I get that. It used to be, 85 on Warbond, and now it's, what does it drop to? Like 195, I think, was the last Warbond sale, because it's 210 standard pricing, and Warbond drops price, obviously. So yeah, if you have some older Hurricane, even non-Warbond CCUs, that would be a hell of a deal. But right now we'll take what we can get, especially if you're just starting the CCU game, right? You guys don't have the option of going back in time and buying things if you didn't even know the game existed. So it does come up from time to time. Again, it has had a price increase, but that's okay. We're at 210 standard pricing, 195 or so, maybe even less. Maybe it gets down to 185 with a really good Warbond eventually. So this is obviously a great choice. It comes up often enough that it makes a good choice, and the discount's usually pretty good. Next up, we have the Taurus. Obviously, this comes up often enough as well. Spend 20 to save 20. This is a 1-to-1 ratio. This is getting into that okay range of Warbond CCUs to purchase, right? It's had a couple Warbonds that I can think of. Looks like Invictus last year and IAE of last year as well, so twice last year. I don't think it's come up this year. Let me go check CCU Game app. For those of you that don't know the CCU Game app, definitely check it out. It's ccugame.app. Go sign up and check it out. Yeah, it was just 2 times last year. I don't think it's come up before that. I know I have a freebie from way back when, but I don't count those. It's an okay choice, I suppose, if you're already at that level, or if you have this CCU in your chain. You can make that jump. Spend 20 to save 20. It's not ideal. Ideal is a maximizing your savings route, so that would be the Hurricane. But let's go look down the stack here. The Vulcan, obviously, guys, this is a concept. This is what I was alluding to in the previous talk about the Merchantman. Concept on the left is, generally speaking, not good, because you'll spend 20 here to save 20 originally, but when then the Vulcan releases, you could lose that savings entirely. This might be a $220 ship, so you basically paid Warbond new money to basically save $0, and you could have done a standard CCU in the future. So, not so great. That's why we don't do them. It's not that you can't do this with a concept ship on the left and a Warbond on the right. You can absolutely do it. Just realize that you're not necessarily going to save any money. Like, it's just the way it is. If you're going to apply it right now, you lock it in and it doesn't matter. But if you're saving your Warbond CCUs, well, all your CCUs for that matter, for the long term to figure out what ships you actually want to launch and play live in the game, that's just not a great way to do it. So that's why we tend to recommend don't do concept ships on the left when doing Warbond purchases. All right. Same $200 price point, but again, it's a concept ship for the Vulcan, so that's why we say no. Same price point here for the Super Hornet Heartseeker. Caveat, right away. We don't know if the Hornets will still be made available in CCU form, okay? We don't know that that's going to be carried forward in the future. The Hornets should be removed from the store here eventually. Let's see if they're still here at all. So these are just standalone ships. I don't see any Hornets. Any of the Mark I Hornets, I guess I should be specific there. I see none. So it looks like they've removed the Hornets from the standalone ship store, but so far, well, have they left it in the package? They still have a package with it, so They may have just missed this one. F7C starter pack. If anybody from SIG is watching, y'all still have this, but you can't buy the ships separately. I don't know. I wish they would add some additional clarity around the whole Hornet thing. But if you already have the Super Hornet Heartseeker Warbond from any of the previous Valentine's Day Warbond CCU sales, you can absolutely use this in your chain. If you don't, I would not use this one right now. We just don't know if they're going to still allow them in the CCU game. We don't know if they're going to be in the CCU game at all. The only Hornet that's available for CCU right now is a Hornet Mark II. Mark II is available. None of the others are. That's pretty telling, right? So I would not recommend that. I would definitely not recommend, unless you already have it in your chains, like I do. Like, I recommend everybody buy some non-Warbond CCUs to all these ships, or from something to these ships, or from these ships to something else as well, so you can cover all your bases in the CCU game into the future. You don't have to apply everything right away, right? Again, CCU game's a long game. You want to have these things stacked out and available so you can mix and match later on when you're actually making your decisions about which ones to apply for the live game. So, all the caveats there spoken about. You could do this. It's the same ratio. Spend 20, save 20. And if you already have this, absolutely keep it in. Use it, buy it, whatever, if it makes sense for you. If you don't already have Heartseeker CCU in your hangar, I would recommend not touching any of the Hornets besides the Mark II, except the Mark IIs if they go on Warbond sale again, until we get clarification or another event pops up and we have some Warbond Hornet Mark I's available. That'll give an indicator that they're still going to put them in the CCU circle of life, so to speak. But until then, and you don't have this, if you're just starting in the CCU game, never put any Hornet Mark I, see the MK1 here, don't put these on the left until we get clarification about whether or not they're going to stay in the CCU game at all. Okay? A1 Spirit, same price point, $200. This one has come up a couple times in the future, right? At least 3 times that I can think of since its release. It seems to be a pretty obvious choice. This is probably one of the better choices, in my opinion, for this $200 price point. If you're looking at all 3 ships at $200, right? The Connie Taurus, the Heartseeker. I mean, Vulcan and Heartseeker are kind of both those in a weird place. If you already have the Vulcan, I suppose, if you bought it as a $5 CCU or something, it could make sense. But the Hornet Heartseeker, you really already have to have this one in your stable. I wouldn't use this in any other chain if you don't already have it. But the A1 compared to the Connie Taurus and the Hurricane, it's a new ship and it's already had like 3 or 4, at least 3. Let me go check. Again, checking the CCU game app. Yeah, it's had 3 already since it was released. So, and it was like a $25 discount. It's a pretty good one. Most recent one was only $15. So it's decreasing its Warbond CCU sale amount. But again, if you already have the A1 Warbond, this is an obvious choice. And I still think at the $200 price point, the A1 is the best choice for you, especially if you just started the game. If you've been playing the game for a while, you get to make your own decisions because you already know what you have in your stable, right? So there you have it. That's my analysis for the Sandtalk. Anything else you're leaving too much on the table, or it's a concept. Like the Zeus is a concept that's going to increase in price. You're going to lose the $10 savings, probably $10 worth of savings there, because you're spending new money. I don't want to lose those savings. Doesn't make sense to me. But hey, it's your money. Do what you want with it. The Saber Firebird, I think this is still on Warbond sale. So if you're in a hurry, if you don't have patience to play the long CCU game, yeah, sure. You may have just picked up the Firebird because you just started playing. You're like, hey, 35, it does save me some money. I'm just going to buy it. Sure. You can totally do that. It makes sense for those people that are they want to build out their chain and have that final ship during alpha testing, that's totally fine. I get it. Obviously, you don't care about saving all the money possible, which is still okay because you're still supporting the game, right? So I'm not trying to rip the game off, guys. It's just let's spend our money efficiently. So yeah, you could totally do this. I would not recommend it. I'm going to recommend the Hurricane or the A1, of course. Those are the two best choices at those higher price points. But if you wanted to make this a quick conversion and get to the Sandtalk because you love that ship and you know you're going to want it forever, sure, dude. Spend the money and get it done. So the Saber Firebird and the Retaliator are still available in the store for Warbond purchasing and Warbond CCUs specifically. So in case anybody missed some of my previous videos around Invictus, I'm going to go into each of these relatively quickly, but I'll do some decent coverage in case you missed the previous videos. I'll start off with the Saber. So first up, we'll take a look at the Gladiator. Spend 5 to save 15. That's a 3-to-1. I know it's only $15, but that's a hell of a ratio, and I'll take it. That's a good one. Gladiator's only ever had one Warbond that I can think of. It may have had some older ones pre-2021, and I think there were some freebies way back when. But again, we're talking about almost 4 years ago at this point, at least 3 years ago. So it's not a high likelihood it'll come back just on a ratio and statistical basis, but we know it's in the queue because it's happened at least once, right? So, and I think they're going to do a gold pass on the Gladiator eventually, which means it'll probably get a price increase. So again, yeah, it's spend 5 to save 15. I still think it's a good deal, even if it's less likely to come back around. If you already have it in your stable, it's a no-brainer. Clearly get it. If you're just starting the game, it's still maximizing savings right now, so I would still recommend this Gladiator. The SRV is a new one, right? So this is a ship that's only been out for a couple years. It's had what it went from concept of like 150, I think, and it raised price to 165 where it is now. So it's had a $15 price increase. Again, it's still spend 5 to save 5, but this thing, with as new as it is, it's already had 3 Warbond sales. I think this is a high probability as well to come back. So I would definitely recommend the SRV, especially if you already have it in your stable. Good choice. Let's go see the rest. Prospector, also a decent one, not as often as as some of the others, but they've already done 2 of them this year for the Prospector. Right, so for whatever reason, they needed to kick off some additional sales for the Prospector. So they had like 2 Warbonds this year, I think in February, and then in Invictus. And then last year they had IAE and something in July that happened with the Prospector. And that was a killer one, right? It was $10 off, but you also got a full armor set and some other stuff. It was one of the cooler deals for the Prospector. And then it had another one before that, I think IAE of 2022. So it's pretty often now. So yeah, I would recommend this one too. Again, you're spending 15 instead of 5, so the savings aren't that great, but it's a 1-to-1 ratio. Spend 15 to save 15. Still okay. It's still an okay deal. Again, if you want to get to the Saber Firebird or beyond, you want to use it in your chain. These at the $65. This at the $65 range are obviously the best. SRV outweighs the Gladiator. I think the Gladiator will hit a price increase eventually, and you'll lose some of those savings if you don't apply it, but still, whatever. It's fine. It's a fine choice, especially if you're completing one of your chains now versus waiting for the long term. If you didn't want to go for either of these for whatever reason, or you already have a Prospector CCU, I would totally be okay with you using the Prospector one. You spend 3 times as much and you save the same amount, but it's still not terrible. Dropping below the 155 price point. The Razer EX as well is at 150. I don't think it's ever had a Warbond that I can remember. It may have had one pre-2021. I think that's as far back as the CCU game app goes. It's possible it had one. I always remembered it having one, or at least thinking that it had one, but I've never seen it, and I didn't buy one, I don't think. So I just pretend like it never existed because, if it hasn't been around in 4 years, well, it's less likely that it's going to come around again, especially for all the new players. So I don't recommend them. If it happens like once a year or something, like the SRV or the Prospector now, I'm totally okay with recommending them. But something like the Razer EX that hasn't had one in 4 years, I try to not recommend those, even if it's the same price point. And that's how I kind of weigh the decision. Like if this was the only choice at 155, I'd be like, okay, Prospector or Razer, totally Prospector. It's a no-brainer. All right, dropping down the stack, this Hornet Mark 1 is in the same position as all the other Hornet Mark 1s. Don't use them unless you already have a CCU to it. That's the only way that you're going to complete that chain, possibly. We don't know if they're going to come back. I would not rely on them coming back into the CCU game, okay? So skip this one. If you're down at the 150, you're leaving a bunch of money on the table anyway. But Freelancer Max has had at least one. I think only one. Maybe only one ever in 2022 IAE. I think I snagged a couple of those because it was rare. So you're leaving a bunch of money on the table and it's already rare. So probably not a good choice for those that are fresh to the CCU game. I wouldn't recommend this one. And what else do we have? Razer LX. I don't think that's ever had one either. Maybe one. Oh no, it did. It had one for IAE last year. Right at the end of November, the Razer LX had a Warbond CCU. But again, the first one and only. So again, another rare one, just as rare as the Freelancer Max. What's next is the Mantis. So the Mantis has had like two, one in February and one of IAE of last year. So this one's not a terrible choice down at the 150 mark, right? Again, I'm not recommending that you go all the way to the 150 mark unless you already have it in your stable, because chances are low that you'll make savings in between there, but it is possible. So if you already have a Mantis, sure, you can go ahead and use that as a chain or as a link in your chain. But I'm only really recommending like the Prospector, the SRV, and the Gladiator. SRV wins, Gladiator second, because again, it's maximizing savings. Next up is a Prospector. Anything else is pretty rare. And definitely shy away from the Hornet Mark 1s unless you already have them in your chain. Next up, we've got the Retaliator still. So let's check into this. $15 savings. Awesome. And Prospector to it is 5. So spend 5 to save 15. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I think I just went over the Prospector, but we can go over it again. It's had quite a few Warbonds, about 2 a year as of recent time since 2023. It really kicked off in IAE of November. And it's had probably 2 a year since then. It's already had 2 this year, so high likelihood. I like the Prospector now. I didn't used to like it because they didn't have much before like 2022, and now it seems to be hitting the docket every once in a while, so it's good. Good option there, and it's the highest price point at 155. Spend 5 to save 15. Good deal. What is next? Razer EX. Again, it's never really had one in recent times. Pretty rare. Would not recommend. Hornet Mark 1 of any version, Mark 1, doesn't matter. I would shy away from those unless you already have it. Freelancer Max, again, spending 10 to save 15. Still a good ratio, right? Right? Pretty good ratio. And Freelancer Maxes, though, it is rare. It's had one that I can recall. So take that for what it is. If you already have it, then yeah, sure, it makes sense to put this together. If you don't have it, I would not rely on that one coming back. Razer LX is in the same boat. It's had one. The Mantis has had 2, but only 2. Again, going all the way back to like 2021. So it's okay, I suppose. It's got a better ratio than the Freelancer Max and Razer LX. And again, we're shying away from the Hornet Tracker. So out of those 4 at the price point of 150, it's got the E1 as well. E1. I don't know if the E1 has ever had a Warbond, has it? It's had Warbond pricing, but not a Warbond CCU. I think it's technically still concept too. So, yeah, I wouldn't want to mess with this or the Expanse. I don't know. Maybe I'm just jaded by prices, but for some reason the Expanse seems inexpensive at 150. Is that just me? Like it's the only industrial refinery ship that exists. It just seems like I don't understand how that's cheaper. I know it's concept pricing, but how that's cheaper than a Prospector. I don't know. It just seems like it should cost more. Never mind. Scratch that. It's a perfect price point. Um, going down, we've got, again, a bunch of, there's a whole lot of concepts at 150. Expanse, E1, Spirits, Mark II Zeus, two Mark II Zeuses. Yeah, and then you're just leaving so much money on the table with the Razer, the standard Razer. And I don't think it's had but a couple war bonds as well. One last year, one 2 years before that. It's pretty rare. And again, you're spending 15 to save 15. It's an okay ratio. And again, if you've got this one in your stable and you really need to make this connection, sure, it's okay. It's just not ideal. So I'm not going to say no to this one because, again, the ratio is still good. It's still a 1-to-1 ratio, so I'm not going to kick it out. But there's better options on the table, especially with the Prospector. I think the Prospector is king right here. All right. So as far as starter packs go, maybe you have a friend that does actually want to join instead of just using a second account. We do have one starter pack that seems to at least add some value. But my issue with this is starter packs for a newbie just joining, 2 years worth of insurance isn't terrible, but I don't know. Maybe 2 years is enough. Maybe 2 years is kind of the base level where it wouldn't really matter. I just figure insurance may be not a big deal in the future, but it's one more bullshit thing you got to deal with when starting out in a game, right? And my idea is that 2 years, after 2 years, you should have amassed enough wealth, even if you play intermittently, to not really worry about insurance in game. Again, if they make that like some sort of an in-game purchasable item, insurance for your ships, for instance, maybe even different levels of insurance, etc. I think 2 years is probably plenty, but I just wish they'd give LTI. You're a new guy starting out, trying to literally buy a full package to start the game, and they give 24 months insurance or less. Like some of these other ones that are not war bond, because this is a war bond one, right? It's a war bond discount, so it's all new money. If you're buying the standard one, it's probably like, what is it, 6 months? Yeah, 6 months. I really dislike this. They say it's not a big deal, but then they have all these various different tiers of insurance. I wish they would just set all starter packs you get on your starter ship. You should just get LTI on it. That's my opinion. But anyway, this is Warbond, so I'm going to quickly cover it. It is a bit of a discount. It gives you a full set of armor and a paint, and you get the Sulin, or 2 paints. Oh, okay, that's cool. Yeah, okay, sure. What's funny is, it's still $72 for a starter pack. It still seems high. I know the Sulin has some additional functionality, livability, but for a starter ship, I don't know. I don't think it's a good option. So yeah, here you go. If anybody's watching my CCU game video, which is kind of more of an advanced, you've been playing a game for a while kind of thing, and instead you don't really know what the CCU game is or what the Star Citizen is, if you're looking to buy a starter pack, I'm not going to recommend anything at this high price point. There's better ships down below. Cutter is a decent starter ship. It cannot do combat. C8 Pisces Expedition, decent ship. It's okay at combat. At the beginning missions, obviously you're not going to be taking on anybody like Avenger 1 in a Pisces. But for best all-around starter, if you're looking to spend this kind of money anyway, I'd grab the Titan. Titan's a much better ship, I think, than anything below it, for sure. It can combat, it can do some cargo. It's got a area in the back where you can store stuff, even a small bike, etc. And above that, I would recommend the Nomad. It's a very functional ship. Not a combat ship, not a combat ship at all, but it's got a lot of like multi-use purposes. The back end is huge. It's like a space truck. Very cool ship. I would recommend that even over the Freelancer, to be honest. Until the Freelancer gets a serious hardcore gold pass, I'm not recommending this ship to anybody. Any of the Freelancers, for that matter, actually. And then I'm baffled as to why the Hornet is still available in the Mark 1. This is a Mark 1. At least it looks like a Mark 1. If it says Mark 2 and I open this up, I'm going to feel stupid. Right here. So right here it says Mark 1. I don't know why they're still offering this, but whatever. They're supposed to have removed all Hornets from the store. Maybe it was just an oversight that they still had it in a starter pack. But anyway. So yeah, if you're brand new to the game, Nomad, Titan are probably the better ships here. If you're just worried about cargo and doing personal missions, staying solo, Cutter's still a decent ship too. But also, if you can hold off, I would wait for another free fly event where they offer not only better insurance but also referral rewards, and then you can sign up then. So there's my soapbox for a new person trying to join the verse. Jumping over to the standalone section, there's a couple war bonds here still. The MPV tractor, I don't know, man. These small ships, it just seems like it would make more sense to purchase them in game. But that's just me. I know some people like to have a full-on hangar for all the possible ships they're going to play in the game. That might make sense if you have your own Hull D or something and you're going to want to actually load your own ships. You'll be, I suppose that would be possible, or if you had your own team or something, or maybe future game dynamics would require such a thing. But for me, well, that's not for me. Moving on. What's the next war bond? Oh, the Ursa Medevac. I still think this is a cool idea, and I like the Ursa Medevac. I do wish they had a smaller Ursa Medevac, more like an ambulance, right? More cramped space, door on the side to access the pilot seat, so to speak, and the back end was just kind of almost like a Titan, right? Real small. Anyway, moving on. There are some other war bonds here. I'm surprised they didn't do like all, or at least more alien ships for war bond. The Sulin isn't a war bond. The Talons aren't war bonds. They still have the Saber Firebird and the Retaliator. Okay, those, I don't know when they're going to actually end those sales. I thought it was supposed to be like the 11th or something, but it looks like they're continuing on with it. Okay. Retaliator cargo pack. Okay, so the Raylan concept ship is available. Again, if you want to buy it outright. Meh. I don't really like buying ships outright. More cargo, more concepts. So the concepts that were just released as well are all available. Warbond and concept, Warbond and concept. These are the best pricing you can get if you're going to buy the ship outright. So if you just want to own the ship, you don't want to play the CCU game, buy it now because it's not going to get cheaper. Right? That's the way it is. And then they also have just concept pricing. And the Merchantman is also available for concept pricing. Again, we don't know the price of this ship in the end. It's increased from, it may have been less than 250 before, but 250 is the lowest price point I remember when I started paying attention, and it's already increased to 650. This is probably going to be a $750 ship by the end of it, or at least when it gets released. Jumping over to the pack section, there are a couple packs here. Again, I don't recommend buying packs because you're not maximizing savings. However, they are available in Warbond form, so I'm going to cover them. MPUV trio, 3 different kinds of MPUV, which seems redundant to me because it seems like the tractor is basically can become all of the others. What do I know, though? Maybe they're not planning on that. Ursa pack, it's got 2 of them in here. Sure, looks like you're going to save like $10 or $20 or something. Ursa adventure pack with Connie. Okay, sure. What's in this aggressor pack? What is this? This seems interesting. $235 for both Talons, some armor, and some paint. I don't know. The armor's cool. Talon's okay. They really need to do something with how jacked up some of these ships get when they lose some of their thrusters, and it's so easy to lose their thrusters. The Talon is one of them. Talon is an excellent ship overall if you're just kind of flying solo against easy NPC targets, but the moment you have a hard target or any type of PvP combat, it just gets thrashed because the moment it loses a wing or something, I don't know, it's just not a great ship that way. After that. All right, what else we got here? So Saber Triple Back still available, MPV and Hull is still available. These were available before. You could buy both Ironclads. If you're a straight up baller, you can buy both both Ironclads and save, I don't know what, $20. It just seems outrageous to spend this kind of money in a single payment, even though I'm almost to this amount in my account, but I've been, playing the CCU game since 2016, right? So 8 years or so. And then you got the GM pack, which gives armor and a couple ships. Looks like you get the Kartual, the Nox, and the Santok. Oh, and the Sulin. Okay, so you get 3 ships and a ground vehicle. I mean, it's still $515 though, guys. Like, you gotta be a baller. You gotta have a budget way higher than mine for video games to just spend $515 on a pack. So they did give us some additional information about the Drake Ironclad as well. So I'm going to cover that because I'm very interested in this ship. I'm still unsure if I want to upgrade from the Liberator to the Ironclad. I did buy the CCUs that were available to both of them. I don't know if I'm going to use them. I may cash them in, but it is a very interesting ship. I kind of like it. But again, I'm still unsure whether or not I'm going to use this in a chain to complete a chain, or if I'm going to stay with the Liberator. So it's got some interesting information here. It even calls out the Crusader C2, M2, and the Liberator as competitors to the ship, which I thought was interesting because that's exactly what I thought. It's like, okay, it's not exactly a Liberator because it's not a ship transport, but it's got cargo and you can clearly see enough room for at least a Pisces. So it's more of a mobile base than it is a transport vessel, right? But it's also a cargo ship, like it's a huge cargo ship. So I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to go through this. If you're not interested in the Ironclad, you can just kill the video now and have a wonderful day. I hope the CCU stuff helped. All right. So they're talking about the carrier stuff, the cargo bay, etc. You should definitely check this webpage out. I'll put a link in the description, etc. I think it's kind of cool. It's got a retracting roof, but it's not. It looks like the cargo area will not be set up to like be specifically built for a hangar. And as far as the repair facility in the Assault, they actually talk about where is it? The repair bay here. They're like, yes, the repair facilities are not restricted by type, but more by volume and resources. So they're going to get into this hopefully in the future, maybe one of Jared's talks on Friday or something, or maybe a specialized discussion on Thursday. That'd be cool too. Because I think a lot of people are very interested in how that repair facility is going to work. I think they had a tank in one of the cutaways that they released previously, which was kind of cool. But I think, yes, small ships will probably be able to fit, but maneuvering in there in a ship that actually needs repairs may be difficult unless they've got like tractor beam functionality within, because they mentioned that the turret inside is actually a defense turret and not a tractor beam. So that's also interesting. They also call it an armory that's not shown, but they're trying to find a place for it in the Assault. Very cool. The VTOL will be present, so it looks like this ship will absolutely be able to land on planets, which is kind of expected. I don't think any of us thought that was not going to be the case. So one interesting thing that they noted here is that there's 2 independent self-destruct systems, and it looks like it'll be the same way in the Cat, because they're going to do some modifications to the Cat to kind of bring it up to the same functionality as the Fat Cat here. So you can detach the control module. It has its own self-destruct, and the ship that you leave behind will also have its own self-destruct, which is kind of interesting. They say the command module is the same. It's compatible between the Ironclad and the Caterpillar, but it looks like they're both going to have to go through a redesign. But it has the same features. My guess is they're going to redesign the Cat one to make it fit and make sure it's fully compatible either way. I'm not sure how they're going to reattach, right? That's something that I'm going to be interested in, because I hope it's not like the Merlin. Just saying. just saying. So yeah, if you detach, you can't actually fly the ship, which is kind of expected as well. But I mean, it also makes sense that it wouldn't be moving around, right? You'd leave it, and then you take the command module to do whatever you needed to do. Hopefully in space. I don't know what kind of functionality. I don't know what kind of functionality the command module is going to have, but they get down into the bottom right here. It has its own quantum drive, so that's pretty interesting too. Like you could theoretically leave your ship in orbit, go down with your QT to whatever, just, get some regular supplies, and like obviously not stocking up your ship, but you could visit a planet or whatever in the command module. I don't know. It's one of the pictures like this one. Now it's not a picture perfect representation, but it sort of resembles the another Drake ship that we're aware of, right? I mean, I just don't know how it's going to function, right? How maneuverable is it actually going to be? Obviously, it's kind of an escape craft as well. It's a life raft. So that's kind of the way I would treat it. I don't see any guns or anything on it, but that turret might come off with it. So who knows? I just don't know how fully functional it will be. Still a very cool concept that you can remove it and you can go back and reattach is the assumption. I mean, they're showing it here. There's no like damage to the overall main part of the ship, right? The hull. It's not like they're evacuating in this picture. So hopefully this is representative. You can just leave this thing in atmosphere, or outside the atmosphere, in space rather. Gravitational pull would suck if you leave it too close to the atmosphere and it gets sucked down. You come back, oh, where is it? Oh, there's a crash site below me. Great. But no, the idea is that you can detach this module, fly down to a spaceport or what have you, and then go back up. It makes really good sense. I really like this functionality of this and the cat in particular. So they do talk about armor. Who cares? I mean, armor's still not even in alpha testing. That's the joke because we're all alpha testing. They're still working on game mechanics around that. So we'll see when it gets put in. This is where they call out the interior turret at the rear of the cargo bay is a defense turret, which I thought was kind of interesting. So even if somebody kind of boards the ship, you still have like one last line of defense. I'm assuming right now that it's going to be a remote turret. They haven't called out where it would be accessed, or it could be one of those point defense turrets that's automatic. Hopefully it's got really good friend-foe identification and it's not built off of a Drake system. Yes, I did say that out loud. I love Drake, but come on. All right. They did talk about tractor beams, but the Assault trades tractor beams for firepower. So you're going to need the big manual ones or some ship to load it, load your cargo rather. But again, if you're using it as like a minimal cargo and then you're using it as a kind of a ship deployment tool, I'm sure you can fit some Furies in there. All right. Fatterpillar. I do like this name, the Fatterpillar. And when you look at the back, it's like, okay, yeah, it's not as long, but this looks so similar to the Caterpillar that Fatterpillar just kind of makes sense. Love it. And that's it. So they did add this. I'm glad they added this because the information we got so far in the official video channel was kind of lacking for such a new ship. So I'm glad they added this and really called out some of the more important specifications for us. So with that, that's all I have for right now. I don't know if we're going to get additional Warbond CCUs over the next part of Alien Week. Again, it's Tuesday. Well, if there are more Warbonds, then obviously you'll see a new video tomorrow or the day after or something like that. If not, see you at the next sale, guys. Zi-Tek out.